Story appears ordinary till you see the core side of it.
And what you're looking for is the story behind the news.
We bring it to you from Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria.
Giving you all sides and political stories round the clock.
Every detail from the start line to the final whistle.
CoreTV News, expanding your view.
Hello and welcome to CoreTV Primetime News. I am Gift Ogete. In our major story, a medical doctor who treated one of the primary contacts of the late Patrick Sawyer dies as Nigeria records a new death from Ebola in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. Also in this program, the United Nations commends Nigeria for successfully containing the Ebola virus disease. Seven governorship aspirants under the platform of the ruling People's Democratic Party in Adamawa State ask party not to grant waiver to Nuhu Ribadu and 4 others who seek to contest the primary. And outside Nigeria, the European Union raises concern over reports of an incursion by Russian troops into Ukraine. Good to have you join us for CoreTV Primetime News. Now, details of the headlines and other stories. Nigeria has recorded a new death from Ebola in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. The latest casualty, according to the nation's health authorities, is a doctor who treated one of the primary contacts of the late Patrick Sawyer. This brings to 16 the number of Ebola cases in Nigeria, but 70 people are under surveillance in the Rivers State capital alone. The report.
It's only a few days after Nigeria's efforts at containing Ebola had received rave reviews. But now, that enthusiasm has been dampened with the spread of the virus to Port Harcourt, the hub of Nigeria's oil industry. Health Minister says the first confirmed case outside Lagos was a doctor who treated one of the primary contacts.
This primary contact of Mr. Sawyer's had evaded our surveillance team in the last week of July 2014. And traveled out of Lagos to Port Harcourt, where, as we now understand, he consulted with a doctor and was apparently treated for some symptoms. A few days later, 5 days later, following a manhunt for him, he returned to Lagos, by which time he was found to be without symptoms. Following the report of his death by the doctor's widow, the next day, that Saturday when the report came to us, the case has since been thoroughly investigated, and laboratory analysis showed that the doctor died from Ebola virus disease.
The minister disclosed that 70 people are under surveillance in Port Harcourt, but urged residents not to panic.
The Incident Management Committee has already deployed a very strong team. They are already on ground in Port Harcourt to work with the health authorities of Rivers State. I've also had a series of discussions with the authorities in Rivers State. But then, just like the situation has effectively been managed in Lagos and Enugu, the situation in Port Harcourt will also similarly be effectively managed.
This is the second time that a primary contact traveled outside of Lagos, and it's not surprising that the authorities are concerned.
In Enugu, we have 6. In Port Harcourt, we have 70. In Lagos, we have 141. But 200, since we started this journey of Ebola virus disease in Nigeria, 200 people had completed, 200 contacts had completed their 21 days and we are no longer tracking them. So 200 had completed, we are no longer tracking them, but as of today, 141 in Lagos, 70 in Port Harcourt, 6 in Enugu.
He added that the 6 secondary contacts under surveillance in Enugu are due for review in a few days. And in spite of what seems like a setback, the Nigerian authorities say the experience gathered in Lagos will be used to contain the disease in Port Harcourt.
In an effort to complement measures taken by the federal and state governments to contain the spread of Ebola virus, the Association of Medical Laboratory Scientists of Nigeria organized a sensitization workshop for health workers. The workshop, held at the Lautech Teaching Hospital, Osogbo, was described as timely, especially for those handling blood samples from infected patients who are more vulnerable to contracting the disease. Rashid has more.
For an Ebola patient to be properly diagnosed, a science laboratory test must be carried out on the blood. This leaves the medical laboratory worker at a high risk of contracting the deadly disease than any other individual. To ensure that its members have a proper understanding on how to handle blood samples from suspected Ebola cases, Association of Medical Laboratory Scientists of Nigeria, Lautech chapter, held a sensitization program in Osogbo, the Osun State capital. The chairman of the union, Adeyeye Adetunji, says the program is necessary because of the exposure of laboratory scientists to the Ebola danger.
Medical laboratory scientists evidently play a role in the diagnosis and monitoring treatment of various diseases affecting human populations. In the prevailing circumstance, health workers have been identified as being at greater risk of contracting the Ebola virus, as they are the ones daily taking care of the patient already affected by the disease.
When we are talking about Ebola, it's just one of the threats that we have in hospital workplace or hospital workstation, especially laboratory this time around.
In his lecture, the head of medical laboratory services at Lautech Osogbo, Musa Muibi, stressed the need for laboratory scientists to apply the standard safety precautions in laboratories to make them safe from Ebola and any other deadly virus.
Don't say because a sample is labeled Ebola. I mean, a patient is a suspected Ebola case, that's why they have sent the sample. They may send another sample of whom have not manifested any symptoms of Ebola for common pregnancy tests. If that person is Ebola positive, his urine is infectious. So it is the message for all laboratory personnel is that at all the time, continue to observe universal safety precautions.
Participants and laboratory students speak on the impact of the sensitization.
I have learned that Ebola can only be transferred from patients who have shown symptoms of the virus. And you get Ebola from body fluids, you don't just get it from body contact. And I've also learned that as scientists that are going to be taking body fluids and carrying out tests in the lab, there are universal safety procedures that should be followed in order to prevent loss of life through tests done in the laboratories.
With the newly recorded cases of Ebola, it is pertinent for all hands to be on deck in fighting the scourge. Rashid, CoreTV News, Osogbo.
The United Nations has commended Nigeria for successfully containing the Ebola virus disease. Special Envoy of the UN Secretary General David Navarro delivered the message at a meeting with President Goodluck Jonathan. The President, in his response, praised the Lagos State government for teaming up with the Federal Ministry of Health to stem the threat posed by Ebola. Jonathan assured the UN Special Envoy that in spite of the seeming success of the containment measures, the government will remain vigilant to guard against further cases of Ebola in the country. The meeting also provided an opportunity for the President to condemn discrimination against Nigerians by some countries over recent cases of the disease in the country. President Jonathan argued that there was no justification to stigmatize Nigerians since the virus had been effectively contained and never attained epidemic levels. Head of the United States top public health body, Tom Frieden, says the Ebola epidemic in Liberia is set to get worse, and many cases of the deadly disease are not included in the official tally. Liberia has been hardest hit by the epidemic that is raging through West Africa, with 624 deaths and 1,082 cases since the start of the year. Frieden met President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf to discuss ways of combating the epidemic.
Throughout Liberia for the last few days, talking to patients, healthcare workers, government workers, community leaders, and others. The situation with Ebola in Liberia today is dire. There is need for urgent action. The world has never seen an outbreak of Ebola like this. Unfortunately, not only are the numbers large, but we know that there are many more cases than have been diagnosed and reported, and that cases are increasing. I wish I didn't have to say this, but it is going to get worse before it gets better. At the same time, I've been very impressed by the response that I have seen. All of Liberia needs to come together to stop Ebola. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be quick.
Still on Ebola, the death toll from the Ebola outbreak raging through West Africa has passed the 1,500 mark, while the number of cases has soared past 3,000, according to the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization says a total of 1,552 people had died in Guinea, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Nigeria from the epidemic that reared its head at the beginning of the year. While 3,062 had become infected, Guinea had 648 cases, including 430 deaths, while Sierra Leone has seen 1,026 cases and 422 deaths. Liberia has so far counted 1,378 cases and 694 deaths, while Nigeria has seen 17 cases and 6 deaths, according to the World Health Organization. You're watching CoreTV Primetime News. 7 governorship aspirants moved to stop Nuhu Ribadu governorship dream in Adamawa State. Find out more after the break. Stay with us.
Nivea Nourishing Body Lotion. Its effective formula with Hydro IQ gives your skin deep and long-lasting nourishment for skin that stays moisturized all day long. Look great, feel great, with deeply nourished skin. Nourishing Body Lotion from Nivea.
Dose of Scott's Emotion, which combines omega-3, calcium, vitamins A and D, supports the healthy development of your child's brain and body. Scott's Emotion promotes active minds and strong immunity in growing children. New Scott's Orange Flavor Multivitamin Emotion.
We the residents are responsible for the Lagos we live in. So let's change the way we think. Together, we can bring back that Lagos where every resident is respected and rights are preserved. That is the true spirit of Lagos. So join me to restore, share, and protect it. Visit spiritoflagos.com to make a pledge and start doing something today.
Welcome back. It's CoreTV Primetime News. Some governorship aspirants under the platform of the ruling People's Democratic Party in Adamawa State have asked the party not to grant waiver to Nuhu Ribadu and others who seek to contest the party's primary. The petition was submitted at the party's national headquarters in Abuja. Apart from Ribadu, other aspirants the petitioners asked to be denied waiver are Mohammed Modibo, Marcus Gundere, Buba Mawa, and Aliyu Kama. The 7 aspirants who signed the petition are Omar Ado, Hamid Gulak, James Barker, and Andrawa Sawa, Abubakar Aliyu, Idi Hong, and Awal Tuka. The petition, which was sent to the chairman of waiver panel and the party's national organizing secretary, Abubakar Mustafa, was titled Objection to Granting of Waivers for the purpose of contesting the People's Democratic Party's governorship primaries in Adamawa State for the forthcoming October 11th by-election. The petitioners argued that Ribadu, Gunduri and Modibo joined the PDP for the first time only recently, while Mawa and Kama returned to the PDP less than 2 years ago. Ribadu, in his reaction, says those huffing and buffing over his entrance into the governorship race portray themselves as empty shells that they are. Voter education has been in front burner as the Independent National Electoral Commission prepares for the 2015 general elections. Guest analyst Chijokeze says the inability of the electorate to have full knowledge of the electoral process is the fault of the electoral umpire, ordering that INEC should take up the responsibility of educating voters and not political parties. As I was speaking on our flagship program, Core Digest.
Can come in different ways. Asking politicians to get involved now on the grounds that, oh, if people who are supposed to vote for me don't register, they won't vote. But how are you going to then achieve that? If you sponsor advertisements to say, hey, go out there and register, this is the time to register, if you're in this state, this time. If you were, say, a national politician, somebody who was vying for the post of the presidency, and you wanted to take out advertisements that will go around the country, that's beautiful. But if you were a state politician, you know, or you run in a certain locality, and then you can do that. But we need to be wary before we ask politicians to do anything. Because if I say I come in and I try to assist INEC in Ogun State, for instance, and I spend my money on behalf of INEC, educating the masses to do what they should do. However, it's INEC who's supposed to do this, not the politicians. INEC is supposed to advertise and educate the public, not the politicians, not the political parties. INEC is supposed to get their materials out to the people or create the channels for the people to reach them, not the politicians.
Speaking, a legal practitioner and President Voters Awareness Initiative, Wale Ogunade, condemned the attitude of politicians who defect from one political party to another, struggling for power.
Look at the charlatans that you have, all these politicians. They are in PDP this morning, and I call them political harlots, practicing harlotry, shamelessly. They are Mrs. PDP in the morning. In the afternoon, they are Mrs. APC, or what do they call themselves? APC. In the evening, they are Mrs. Labour Party. In fact, they are ready to sleep with PCBA and whatever other party, shamelessly. And in the morning, they will come out again and be rubbing their pancake. That, yes, I'm beautiful. Any other man that is ready, I'm ready for him. Shamelessly. No value, no idea. They are just shameless. And look at what is happening now. Look at them. They are all running around. All they are interested is in just to capture and to be in government and in power. They have no interest of developing. And unfortunately, it's a short time. Before you know it, is either they spend 4 years or 8 years. After that, they come back, and some of them, they die in penury. They die unsung. There are so many of them.
Ralph Nwoye has emerged the new deputy governor of Enugu State. The office had become vacant after Sunday Onyebuchi was impeached by members of the Enugu State House of Assembly on Tuesday. The new deputy governor, a clergy of the Christ Ascension Church, was screened and cleared by the House of Assembly following his nomination by Governor Subilan Chime. After the House had returned from a short break during Thursday's plenary session, the Speaker, Eugene Odo, read a letter forwarded to the lawmakers by the governor, urging them to expeditiously consider and approve Nwoye's nomination. The break was occasioned by the receipt of the letter. After the letter had been read, the Leader of the House, Ude Okoye, seconded by the Deputy Leader, John Okuta, moved motions for the immediate acceptance and consideration of the letter and for the nominee screening. Nwoye was then ushered into the chambers of the House for screening, but he ended up just taking a bow after lawmaker John Anichukwu pleaded with his colleagues that the reverend gentleman standing before them be allowed to take a bow and leave the chambers. Reactions have been trailing the recent security meeting between former President Olusegun Obasanjo and President Goodluck Jonathan over security matters in the country. Head of the Coalition Against Corrupt Leaders, Debo Adeniran, says the meeting was a distraction and unnecessary at this time.
It is an unnecessary meeting because they have had different opportunity and fora to hold meetings before now. And as a matter of fact, Obasanjo cannot claim that he became wiser when he left the office as the president of Nigeria. All along, he had the opportunity of spending 8 years as the civilian president of this country. And most of these insurgency issues of security developed during his tenure. Maybe because the general dissatisfaction from the populace, about the way they were governed, the inadequacies, the lopsided distribution of wealth of this country must have engineered some of these things. The hope that was dashed during the Obasanjo days must have led to the militancy, insurgency, and several other forms of explosive anger that different parts of the country are unleashing on innocent people who did not contribute to that misery. Then for a Jonathan to now see Obasanjo as that cesspool of wisdom that can lead to the curbing of insurgency is a step in the wrong direction.
President Goodluck Jonathan has launched the multi-purpose National Electronic ID card. Speaking at the formal launch in Abuja, the president says the target is to ensure that over 100 million cards are issued. President Jonathan received his own e-ID card at the occasion and pointed out that it would make it easier for ordinary Nigerians to benefit from government policies.
This card, every Nigerian must get. If you take the issue of subsidy of transport, what we do subsidizing hydrocarbons does not go to the ordinary people. Government spends huge sums of money, hundreds of billions of naira every year in the budget, as the National Assembly, sometimes always controversial, subsidizing kerosene. Kerosene is going very high in the market, subsidizing PMS and so on. We are thinking about how do we subsidize transport of the person going to school, person going to the market, person moving from Lagos or Enugu or Lagos to Kano, not paying subsidy, that 50% of that will be smuggled out of the country. When the issue of the crisis in the north came up, we come up with the idea, Mr. President, how do we do some bit of something that takes the shape of amnesty? There's amnesty in the South or Niger Delta. How do we do amnesty? I said, look, we must not wait for youth to carry arms against the state before we help them. We are working to the extent that as long as we have the identity, governments will be able to directly, just like the coordinating minister of the economy attempted to explain to us, to find a way of making life more meaningful. We can't do that when you don't know who is who, because the money goes to the wrong hands. And those who use this money to create more problems, even for the very poor people they're exploiting. So I'm quite pleased today. In fact, with the NIMS's success story, as a nation, we are moving.
From e-ID cards to e-agric, Nigeria is the first country in the world to develop an e-wallet system for the distribution of fertilizers to farmers. Minister of Agriculture Akinwumi Adesina disclosed this at the formal launch of the National e-ID card in Abuja. He also ordered that out of 14 million farmers registered in the e-wallet scheme, over 10 are listed in the national database.
The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development has developed Nigeria's first ever national database of farmers. We have over 14 million farmers that have been registered, all of them with farmer identification cards. But these farmer ID cards are now being upgraded, Mr. President, into this full national biometric identification cards, the e-cards that the barrister talked about. We are already migrating 10.5 million farmers out of the 14 million farmers that we have registered in the e-wallet system into this NIMSI pre-enrollment national database. Mr. President, you spearheaded the development of the electronic wallet system for the agricultural sector of Nigeria. With this e-wallet system, we are reaching farmers with subsidized farm inputs via mobile phones with remarkable success. Over 14 million farmers have redeemed their seeds and fertilizers via mobile phones on these e-wallet systems since 2012. Nigeria is the first, not just in Africa, but we are the first in the world to develop the e-wallet system for delivering subsidized farm inputs to farmers via mobile phones.
This is CoreTV Prime Time News. We'll take another break and return with business and sports. Stay with us.
You can now watch CoreTV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to CoreTV Primetime Days.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click CoreTV, leave a space, then News. CoreTV News, a 24-hour news station.
Nigerians continue to tonight, the city of Lagos waits at the dark as all routes to you.
Be the first to know from the north, south, east, west and around Africa. We break the news.
One Nigeria.
Now you can catch all the actions live as the news spreads. We are CoreTV News.
Welcome to CoreTV,
a 24-hour news station.
One continent, 54 countries, over 2,000 languages, but united with similar interests. As news breaks, we give you in-depth analysis around Africa every Monday on CoreTV News.
Hello and welcome to Business News with me, Sabena Izoku. The Central Bank of Nigeria has begun the restructuring of the Nigerian Security Printing and Minting PLC with the directive of President Goodluck Jonathan. To this end, the board of the company has approved the dissolution of the executive management of the company. It also directed the current acting managing director, Alhaji Bamali Ahmed, and 2 executive directors to retire from the company with effect from September 1. The development was confirmed by the statement signed by the company secretary and the legal advisor Lawa Adamu that the board has approved the appointment of Joseph Ugbo as the substantive managing director and chief executive of the company. Jonathan had on Thursday, while speaking during the presidential lunch and unveiling the national identity card, says he has directed the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, to reposition the Nigerian Security and Minting Company to enable it to become a global player in the printing of security documents. The federal government has unfolded the plans to increase the country's non-oil export to the economic community of West African states from 2011 of 45.62 billion naira to 116.5 billion naira by 2015. The Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Olusegun Aganga, who was represented by Dr. Samuel Autumn, disclosed this during the 7th National Council on Industry, Trade and Investment in Makurdi on Thursday. This year's event deliberated on strategies to fast-track inclusive economic growth through industrialization, trade and investment. As part of efforts towards increasing the country's non-oil export sector, the minister says the ministry had completed a new national trade policy and strategy which will integrate Nigeria's industrial, trade and investment priorities. Nigerian priorities for trade will facilitate job creation in Nigeria and boost export of non-oil products to new markets. The government will work towards increased non-oil export to other African countries from 3% of global export to 10% by 2015. The minister also says the government will increase Nigeria's non-oil as proportion of total export from current 5% in 2011 to 20% by 2015 and 40% in 2020. The Director General of Standard Organization of Nigerian Sun, Dr. Joseph Odumodu, has called for public cooperation to curb importation and the use of inferior products in the country. Odumodu made the call in Abuja Thursday, adding that the fight could only be won with the support of all Nigerians. Also, support for the agency's effort in the campaign against fake products could lead to the end of importation of fake products. The use of inferior products affects the growth of countries' economy adversely as it depreciates the value of companies and kills businesses. Odumodi says the agency has started the implementation of zero tolerance campaign against the fake products in the country and has embarked on campaigns, especially at the main market, to sensitize dealers against fake products. It says the agency had presented a bill to the National Assembly to empower it to seize and destroy any pirated products within 3 months and also prosecute the culprits. The nation loses 52 billion naira yearly to fake and substandard products, and that auto spare parts appear to be taking the larger chunk in terms of volume and value. It says the agency will keep working with National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control and others to wage war against the importers of fake drugs and products. The disagreement between the government and the cocoa exporters over the level imposed on them seems not to come to an end. Cocoa shipment from Nigerians halted this week after merchants and the state government disagreed over the payment of export levy. Kent says the spokesman for the Cocoa Association of Nigeria, Godwin Uku, says about 600 tons of cocoa due to export had been delayed since Monday after the local government refused to issue certificates to buyers for shipment. The state government directed merchants pay 320 naira per ton of cocoa and the levy to an account. Uku says the levy was normally paid to the trade body without government's involvement, which was why merchants had refused to pay. He added the merchants plan to shut their warehouses in Income, one of the biggest producing areas, which had around 2,000 tons of cocoa bean, on Thursday due to stockpiled products until the impasse was resolved. Cross River is the second largest grower of cocoa in Nigeria with annual volumes of 60,000 tons and the world's fourth biggest cocoa producer. Cocoa exports from Cross River are usually destined for Europe. And on the stock market report, equity transaction on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange ended on a positive note today. The all shares index appreciates by 0.38% to close 41,359.87 basis points. Market capitalization increases in the same manner and closes at 13.65 trillion naira. And all a total of 603.1 million shares, valued at 2.497 billion naira, were exchanged in 4,617 deals. Report shows that 40 oil topped the gainers chart, followed by Ashake Cement, International Breweries, Guarantee Trust Bank PLC, and Okumu Oil. On the other hand, WAPCO PLC led the losers chart, followed by NNFM, Con Oil PLC, PZ PLC, Dangote Flour PLC. Meanwhile, here are the top 5 trades. And that's it on business news. Coming up next is sport news with Brownson Uwana. Please stay with us.
Welcome you to From the Ivory Tower. On happenings around the country, varsity teachers get to air their views. Students are actually not left out. We bring you intellectual ends from the events happening around you. It is dedicated to educating the populace with a spice of entertainment.
From the Ivory Tower, Tuesdays, only on CoreTV News.
Our style, that's what he delivered. Here's that ball, storming, Puyol with a flying lead.
Ball taking them out in the later minute.
Thanks for joining us on Sport News tonight. I am Brownson Uwana. The interim committee set up by the Parallel Congress of the Nigerian Football Federation (NFF) has described the action of the newly elected board led by Chris Giwa to occupy the secretariat of the NFF as illegal. Ephraim Chukwuemeka, a member of the interim committee who visited the NFF secretariat, said the election was I beg your pardon. Ephraim Chukwuemeka, a member of the interim committee who visited the NFF secretariat, said the election was a shame because the August 26th Congress was only to chart a new roadmap to conduct the elections. He said the interim committee would be assuming duty on Monday with the General Secretary of the NFF. Manchester City will play Bayern Munich for the third time in 4 seasons, as well as CSK Moscow and Roma in the 2015-2016 UEFA Champions League season. 5-time winners Liverpool will face defending champions Real Madrid on their return to the Champions League. Liverpool, back after 5 years' absence, have also been drawn alongside Basel and those greats of Bulgaria. Arsenal face Borussia Dortmund for the second season running, while Chelsea look to have a kind draw against Schalke, Sporting Lisbon and Maribor. Real Madrid forward Cristiano Ronaldo won the UEFA Best Player in Europe award ahead of Bayern Munich pair Manuel Neuer and Arjen Robben. The 29-year-old Portugal captain Ronaldo scored a record 17 goals to help Madrid win the Champions League last season. Ronaldo beat Neuer and Robben in a vote from a panel of 54 journalists. Goalkeeper Neuer helped Germany win the World Cup, while Robben scored 21 goals for Bayern and 3 for Netherlands on their way to the semi-finals in Brazil. UEFA President Michel Platini announced Thursday that he will not challenge Sepp Blatter for the leadership of World Football's body, but made a new call for Blatter to stand down when his term ends. The 59-year-old French football legend said he would concentrate on a new term as head of Europe's governing body instead of taking on Blatter. His decision leaves the path open for 78-year-old Blatter to win a 5th 4-year term in charge of FIFA in the next election.
Follow my heart. I have chosen football. I have chosen passion. As you can see, we have very large projects to manage at UEFA, and I would like to see them through before considering doing something else. I want to finish what I started just as when I was a footballer. I always saw my contract through to the end and respected my commitments. Here too, I would like to see through the rest of my contract with UEFA. I am more motivated than ever to further develop football in Europe and to defend with vigor the interests of European football and the European federations and the world stage. What we all want is a FIFA that works better, a FIFA that's more transparent, more cohesive, and above all, a FIFA that is respected by football fans. I will do my best to further these goals at my level. But you have to understand that my focus is on UEFA and only UEFA.
Finally, on Sport News tonight, to the US Open, where Swiss third seed Stanislav Wawrinka overcame a mid-match lapse to beat Thomas Bellucci 6-3, 6-4, 3-6, 7-6, 7-1 and reached the US Open last 32. The Australian Open champion went a breakdown in the 4th set, but recovered with some fine shot making. 5th seed and 2006 champion Maria Sharapova survived a loss of his first set to see-off world number 95 Alexander Dolgoro 4-6, 6-3, 6-2. America's 21st seed Solian Stephens also suffered a shock defeat, beaten 5-7, 6-4, 6-2 by Swedish Jonah Larsson. And that's my final whistle on Sport News tonight. My name is Bronson Owanai. Very big thanks for watching.
You can now watch CoreTV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to CoreTV Primetime Days.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click CoreTV, leave a space, then News. CoreTV News, a 24-hour news station.
Back, it's CoreTV Primetime News. The European Union says it is extremely concerned by reports of an incursion by Russian troops into Ukraine. The EU says there is an urgent need for a political solution to the crisis on the eastern edge of the European Union. EU leaders plan to discuss the development in Ukraine at a summit that is primarily tasked with filing top EU jobs, including the successor for Ashton.
Very closely following what is going on the ground, you know now that the High Representative has been obviously extremely concerned by the latest developments, including reports that we are seeing on what is going on in the ground. Our call on Russia to put an immediate stop to any form of border hostilities. This obviously includes the flow of arms, equipment and military personnel from Russia to Ukraine. And we reiterate our support for the political and an urgent need for political solution of the crisis that would be based on full respect of Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. The EU leaders are coming to Brussels on Saturday, and the crisis in Ukraine is on the agenda of the summit.
Germany's anti-Euro party, which rejects Chancellor Angela Merkel's handling of the economy, says it hopes to gain a political foothold by winning its first seat in a state parliament. Voters in Saxony kicked off the first of 3 elections in ex-communist eastern states as Germany gears up to mark 25 years since the Berlin Wall fell. The alternative for Germany narrowly missed entering the German parliament in last September's general election, but made its debut at the European Parliament in May. Analysts say the party, which wants the orderly dissolution of the euro, must broaden its appeal from a single issue to appear relevant at the regional level. A recent poll for the party suggested that it can win around 7% of the vote, clearing the threshold to enter the Saxony Parliament in Dresden and providing momentum for votes in neighbouring Thuringia and Brandenburg on September 14th. That's been our show for tonight. On behalf of the entire news crew, I am Gift Ogete, wishing you a pleasant good night rest. Good night.